this new?
Next time we do one of this, I'm going to bring me my Afghan plane.
Two here on the corner?
I'm going to bring my Afghan plane. Pure wool, man. We'll be like 300 degrees in like 2 seconds.
Can you cut it? It's only 16 pages, and I can use an extra minute. Okay. But you know, smart. Choose every fourth page.
People choose them. We're there early, right?
Well, I got 3. There's no other question.
Both of them were 164. Yeah, but none of them got green eyes, so they're safe. Yeah, they're safe, and they're not left-handed. They're safe.
Yeah, why don't you come up? Please take a seat. We're about to get started. For those of you who I've not yet had the privilege of meeting, I'm Kevin Knobloch, Chief of Staff to the Secretary, and I have the honor of emceeing today's Town Hall meeting. Welcome to all of you in the room, to those of you watching on live stream or our internal television network. It says in the small auditorium across the way, but maybe we should invite those folks to come on over. We have a few more seats. And of course to the sites we have across the country who are connected via video teleconference. Today is an opportunity for Secretary Moniz and Deputy Secretary Sherwood Randall to provide their insights on the accomplishments, our mission, and the role of you, our workforce, and then to open up for you to ask any questions that you have. After we hear from the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary, those of you here in the room can ask a question by lining up at the mics at several points in the room. Encourage you to start thinking about your questions, as we really want this to be an opportunity for a conversation between your leadership and yourselves. We also, in the DOCast, invited people at other sites who couldn't be here in person to submit questions. We have a number of questions that, time permitting, we'll work those in as well. So with that, I have the great honor of introducing Secretary Moniz for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and let me add my greetings to all of you here and watching by video. And also, I want to start by thanking Kevin, Michael Johnson, our CIO, Bob Gibbs, our Chico for having the town hall on the OPM cybersecurity incidents earlier this month, because I know that remains an issue of concern for I could say many of you. It's actually many of us. I'm on the list too, and I'm sure that the Deputy Secretary will probably have a bunch of questions to answer about that as we go forward. Look, I want to open this up for a few minutes and at least point at a set of issues across our mission space in terms of things that have happened, things that will be happening going forward that I think merit a discussion with all of our colleagues across the department. First, just last month, we released the Quadrennial Technology Review, QTR. I just want to say I want to congratulate Undersecretary Orr and the entire Science Energy team, and it was a big team here in labs and others out there in the research community. An enormous effort. If you haven't looked at it, I'd really recommend it. It provides a tremendous comprehensive assessment of research and development opportunities across the energy space and the enabling science activities. It's the second time. The first one was 4 years ago, but frankly, the level of analysis, et cetera, has been up dramatically. So I think this was really a major product, and I recommend it. It's got some new areas. We don't have time to go through those, but certainly an example is a very strong focus on materials R&D. The issue of material just cuts across so much of what we do, and in fact, it is going to be viewed as an important cross-cutting activity. In fact, I should say the QTR, those of you who worked on it should know that certainly one of its impacts already is very much influencing our proposal for the fiscal year 2017 budget. So we want this to be consequential, and like the Quadrennial Energy Review, I believe is something that is going to really help us a lot in discussions with stakeholders of all types, including congressmen, because if I go to the QER, the Quadrennial Energy Review, that we released in April, which I think, if you remember, is focused on energy infrastructure. Again, highly analytically based. It is doing exactly what we had hoped for by having this kind of comprehensive analytical product. Again, huge team contributing to this. It has changed the nature of the discussion. I can't tell you what will or will not tends to be more often the case, get over the finish line in Congress, but it has changed the dialogue, and both energy committees in the Congress have explicitly said how it is helping guide them as they think about energy legislation. So I think those are really a new way of doing business, I think, really here, and couldn't be more pleased with the impact to date, at least. Secondly, looking forward, another huge responsibility that we all have is the addressing climate change, and I think this savvy crowd knows that in December there will be the critical negotiations in Paris, so-called COP21. The President's announcement last November with President Xi in Beijing changed the game again. It's just as I was saying in the other context, the nature of the discussion changed because the two biggest economies, the two biggest emitters in the world, both came out together and said, we are going to address climate change in a serious and ambitious way. But that wouldn't be enough. I mean, it changed the game, but frankly, if both countries were not demonstrating a commitment to pursuing those goals, it would kind of tend to dissipate. Instead, however, for example, just to pick one example in each case, the United States, the Clean Power Plan that came out this summer for power plant emissions, 32% reduction by 2030. In the Chinese case, just a few weeks ago here in Washington, when President Xi visited here, the commitment to a cap and trade system. So these are kind of serious things, and the world pays attention to that, and so it's no accident that now we have over 150 countries having declared their objectives, representing 85% of the world's emissions. So, you know, there's still 40 days and a lot of haggling to go, but the fact is, I think we stand here today with a lot more optimism than we could have dreamed of, in my view, 1 year ago. So I want to emphasize what we at DOE are in the vanguard of, certainly representing our government's approach, but even on the global stage, especially with the organizers of the COP21 conference in Paris, is innovation. So technology innovation is our game, and we are pushing this hard with the idea that technology innovation that continues the successful driving down of the costs of clean energy is ultimately going to underpin the solutions to the climate change challenge. And I don't mean just in December, and I don't just mean in 2025 or 2030. This is going to be a long-term commitment to keep driving those emissions down to where ultimately the world can, if not enjoy, at least come in at or under the 2 degree centigrade temperature rise that the international community believes is essential. I will just add that the carbon dioxide is what we tend to think about most of the time, because from combusting fossil fuels, and certainly that's an area where our innovation is very critical. But I do want to say that, very importantly, there's also initiatives in terms of other greenhouse gases. We're deeply involved in the in methane emission reductions, but also last week, and I don't know how many of you got a chance to go out just out the front door and see this tremendous technology showcase of new products coming from American industry to eliminate hydrofluorocarbons from cooling, et cetera. Our labs, Oak Ridge in particular, has done work in terms of replacing those hydrofluorocarbons for hot weather regions. To give you an example, but to tell you how important this is, the greenhouse gas equivalence of hydrofluorocarbons relative to CO2 ranges from roughly 1 to 10,000 in terms of global warming potential. So it's a big deal. If this is not addressed, it will alone account for about a 0.5 degree centigrade average temperature rise into the century. But again, innovation, I fully expect, is going to take care of this issue. In this context, I just want to also give a little shout out to one of the offices that's under a little bit of stress, our International Affairs Office. We are running hard, particularly with Paris coming up, and I just want to say that really appreciate it. We did Brazil this morning, at least fortunately that was here. We'll do Pakistan here tomorrow, but we just did the G20 in Istanbul. The Deputy Secretary just came back from the Philippines and Japan. We'll do Saudi Arabia there in a couple of weeks, and it goes on and on and on. And so I just want to say that our international profile is also been extremely high, and I know the group is taxed, but think of the great impact you're having. So you can, and you can sleep in 2017. So you know, let me just shift to nuclear security. Obviously, the big event here has been the Iran negotiation, where again, DOE, our labs and sites have been central to the negotiation. And you might note, those of you who've looked at the agreement know that it is a highly technical, detailed agreement. And if you really look at what's being said, to a good approximation on the nuclear dimensions that DOE has been responsible for, it's been pretty bulletproof. That's not where the critiques lie. So I think it's been very important. Now what I want to say is Sunday, 2 days ago, was called Adoption Day. the agreement is now in force. And so our system, again, is now going to carry a big responsibility for implementation of the agreement in a whole bunch of complicated ways. I will just note, if you look on our website, you'll see a statement of intent that we put out with the Chinese and the Iranians. Just as one example of our responsibilities, the United States and China will co-chair the working group that will be looking at the redesign of their plutonium-producing reactor to reduce plutonium production by an order of magnitude. So, again, that's going to be a very, very big deal going forward. I'd like to also call out that tomorrow there's going to be two events of relevance in our nuclear security responsibilities. In the morning, there's going to be an event that celebrates the 20th anniversary of President Clinton's commitment to the CTBT because of the commitment to a whole new paradigm for maintaining our nuclear weapons, science-based stockpile stewardship. Don't have time now to describe it. Happy to take a question. But just want to say that the success of that program is not because they were off-the-shelf technologies. Again, it took our people, our labs in particular, to invent new science and new technology to be able to do this. So it's really a big deal. Tomorrow we'll be able to get that out. And then in the afternoon, and I would really encourage you to sneak away for a little bit and go up to the Hill. We're going to have Lab Day. These on the Hill with the Congress, and Lab Day, we're doing a rotation of different missions, and combined with the morning event, tomorrow we will emphasize our nuclear security missions in the Lab Day. So that'll be a big deal. Finally, let me say a little bit about in the management performance arena. Again, we continue to have real progress in terms of cleanup, like the plutonium finishing plant in Hanford, which was viewed until pretty recently as the highest risk facility, and that's just about done. But let me instead turn to the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey that we talked about previously. The first thing I want to say is we made a call to you, to all of you, to really engage and give us the feedback. And I really want to thank you all because the response was terrific. We went from approximately a 50% response last year to over 68% this year. And that's a big jump, certainly relative to other agencies. We're right at the top of that. So the first thing is, no matter what you said, we wanted to hear it and get that response. I want to thank the DOE Federal Labor Management Forum. Members are here today. Again, and that was a group established to exchange ideas specifically between management and the labor groups on department-wide issues. And I want to say that they were instrumental as well in pushing for this increased response to the federal employment survey. But again, we now have to listen to, not have to, I mean, we want to listen to what came back. But I want to say, and again, we're very pleased, not as in resting on laurels, by no means, but we improved on 70 of the 71 main items addressed in the survey. It's not that we are now best in class, but at least we're kind of moving up the ladder somewhat. But again, still identifying areas that clearly need to do better. And in fact, one area, just as an example, that was reinforced today in a lunch I had with some folks here in the building, is that we still clearly have work to do in terms of seeing that our workforce feels and experiences the opportunity to have good performance differentially recognized, and a point made today in my lunch that we better align our training programs with the opportunity for upward mobility in the employment ranks. So that's just examples of what we are drawing from the study and from the survey, and then we are going to be focusing on over this year from the results on communications, leadership, and employee work experience. Given the time, I'm not going to go into the specifics there, but that is what we will be doing. And I believe we will talk more on the Workplace Improvement Forum and some of the specific recommendations that we are prepared now to move forward and implement. There'll be others to come, but right now we want to get a first tranche out. And so again, we are very much trying to listen to your good ideas and move those forward. I just end by saying that, when I started here, as you know, roughly 2.5 years ago, we did make a commitment to elevating management performance across the department. Some reorganization, including establishing the Undersecretary for Management Performance. I think we're seeing some important results from this focus on enterprise management. Just again, to pick one example, our Laboratory Operations Board that we established after conducting really detailed and thorough assessments of our labs and sites and plants, they really provided new insights on the condition, unfortunately not the great condition, of a lot of DOE infrastructure at these places. And so this has become an important direction, and those data provided the basis for over $100 million in our FY16 funding request targeted for general purpose infrastructure. So we are trying to do, obviously we got these great mission responsibilities, but we also have to do the blocking and tackling in terms of management performance, taking care of our infrastructure, our deferred maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. On that, I'll just note that the Undersecretary for Management Performance position has not been filled with a Senate confirmed person yet, although our Deputy Undersecretary has done a yeoman job there. But I just want to say, I guess it may have, is congressional here? Did it just finish the hearing? I'm not sure. It has just finished. So 3 of our nominees were up today in a confirmation hearing. Victoria Wasmer for Undersecretary of Management Performance. She's currently at FAA. Cherry Murray, who's at Harvard, for Director of the Office of Science. And John Kotek, who many of you know in the building, to become Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Energy. We are hoping that those confirmations obviously will come soon in the rest of this year. And if that happens, by the way, I have to say that we are very pleased that I think this department is doing such important work. We are attracting first-class talent even at this late in the administration for people to go through the sometimes demeaning process of Senate confirmation, but we'll be down to a place where, in terms of our programmatics, the only open slot will be defense programs, where Don Cook retired this summer, and of course now recently the IG position, where Greg Friedman retired. So those are some of the issues I wanted to just highlight. Again, I think that we are together accomplishing a lot of really important stuff. Certainly things like the nuclear security mission / Iran and climate change / clean energy are about as important as it gets in terms of missions for us, for the American people. So thank you very much for that, and look forward to questions. First, Liz.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and now we'll turn it over to Deputy Secretary Liz Sherwood-Randall, who I believe celebrated your 1-year anniversary.
We did last week.
Last week. Please welcome Liz.
Thank you all for joining us today for this conversation. It's just great to see everyone here, and I believe we have people in Germantown and also streamed from other sites, and we appreciate your being a part of this. I've said in my visits to many of the facilities in the DOE enterprise that our workforce is my top priority as Deputy Secretary. And so I really always appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with people about how they experience their work here in DOE. As Kevin noted, I just passed my 1-year mark, and I had set a goal. I realize now in retrospect it was an ambitious goal to visit all of our labs and major sites in my first year. And I was able to actually get that done. I spent a lot of time on airplanes, traveled to 18 states, and have spent hundreds of hours meeting with our extraordinary men and women across this enterprise who do just amazing work on behalf of our department and our nation. In my tour of the DOE complex, I've encountered some of the most extraordinary and exotic instruments I have ever seen. Some of the world's fastest computers, and all sorts of other instruments that do unique things. I've seen how our labs take part in all aspects of what the Secretary calls the innovation chain, from research to development to demonstration and to deployment of cutting-edge technologies. I've been awed by the work that we do, and I use that word literally. From fundamental science to the development of clean energy and more efficient energy technologies, to national security, including cybersecurity, resilience, and nuclear security, as the Secretary mentioned, and of course our vital environmental cleanup responsibilities. But what has truly wowed me about working here has been our people, this amazing workforce. It's our #1 asset, and I want to underscore something I've come to appreciate. Yes, we have those precise, unique instruments. Yes, we have the supercomputers, the technology that is our cutting edge, but none of it would be possible without our people. And so that's why we're so committed to making this the best place to work in the federal government. We want to be able to retain our workforce and recruit the next generation of talent. The Secretary and I share this commitment to being as the best place to work, and so we have redoubled our efforts to be responsive to the concerns that are being expressed by our workforce. It's one of the reasons we focused on upping participation in the FEVS survey and other feedback mechanisms, because we really want to hear from you in a way that you can express your perspectives. In addition to the FEVS, one of the key efforts underway for us has been to receive feedback and implement changes via the Workplace Improvement Forum. This is a headquarters effort that we announced, as some of you will recall, at our last town hall meeting to engage employees in sharing your ideas on ways to make this department a top destination for the federal family. And over the last few months, through a series of working groups, brown bag sessions, and an online crowdsourcing campaign, and other engagement opportunities, the Workplace Improvement Forum has listened to your ideas on how to improve the overall work experience here at DOE. And we've identified with your input a number of areas for potential improvement. So I want to pause and thank the chairs of this forum, David Klaus, who was already recognized, our Deputy Undersecretary for Management and Performance, and Natasha Campbell, Senior Advisor. Where is Natasha? There she is, Natasha, for your work in coordinating this important new endeavor. I also want to recognize the long hours and the diligent input of the forum's committee co-chairs. These employee volunteers have taken their time to play leadership roles to ensure that the different issue areas of the forum, from facilities to training to communications, were fully addressed. So let me ask if all the forum committee co-chairs in the room would please stand to be recognized. Thank you so much. There must be more of you, but you're not here, so thank you to those who are not here as well. The committees had participation from over 100 employees, and through our crowdsourcing campaign and brown bag sessions, we reached an additional 694 employees. We involved employees in the process to improve their work experience and made sure that your voices were heard. And we're ready to start implementation of a number of the excellent ideas that were brought forward, and so I'm going to announce a few of those today. Also, you can read about the actions that we will take in the future because we're going to use the Powerpedia Workplace Improvement Forum page to post announcements. We also have scheduled 2 brown bags to update employees on the forum's activities, and those will be held here at Forrestal on October 27th from 10 to 11 in the morning, and November 5th in Germantown, also from 10 to 11. So what we're going to do as a first step to make this work happen is that the Office of the Chief Human Capital Officer, Bob Gibbs, sitting here in the front row, will establish an employee engagement and workplace improvement function in his organization. This will be responsible for overseeing implementation of the Workplace Improvement Forum actions here at headquarters. And it will also work with our other sites, because one of the questions that has come back to us is, you're doing all this in headquarters, how can we replicate this out in the field? And we want to see if we can put in place a mechanism to replicating some of these good ideas around the DOE enterprise. So watch for more information from Bob and his team on this effort in the near term. We heard throughout the forum that one of the things that our employees really want to do is to have more opportunities to connect with each other, to create a broader network outside of your own offices and create a DOE community. And this certainly resonates with one of the Secretary's principal goals, which is to create an enterprise-wide approach to doing our jobs. So with the support of the Office of the Chief Human Capital Officer's new Employee Engagement and Workplace Improvement function, we will stand up an employee-driven group that will provide employees with opportunities to improve relations among themselves, build morale, and improve the day-to-day work environment in DOE headquarters facilities. This new employee-led organization will help us to coordinate activities such as arranging a new dimension of the DOE onboarding program to welcome new employees, arranging social and networking opportunities, and curating content on Powerpedia for employee engagement. So if you know that you're interested in participating in this endeavor, please email workplaceimprovement@hq.doe.gov, and a member of the forum team will provide you with more information about how you can get involved. On a related track, you have asked us for more mentoring opportunities. So in the context of exploring new avenues for professional development for a career workforce, which is something the Secretary and I are both very interested in, again, to both retain the best possible workforce and to recruit the next generation, the Office of the Chief Human Capital Officer will evaluate mentoring across the department and provide recommendations for a mentoring program that leverages existing opportunities and best practices and shares these practices widely across DOE. Additionally, through the forum, a number of recommendations have focused on the facilities at Forrestal and Germantown and have suggested improvements that would improve the lives of the day-to-day lives of our employees. So first of all, I want to say that we're going to put in place something in headquarters that a number of you have requested, which is to have an employee lounge, kind of like a Starbucks but without the Starbucks, where employees can get out of their offices and take a break or find a collaborative space to spend time with fellow employees. We'll also be installing filtered water bottle filling stations and a revitalized ergonomics program. All 3 of those things were things that were specifically requested through the process of hearing your voices. Finally, we want to emphasize that this continuing communication is important to us, and we want to make sure that we are able to hear from you going forward. So we have decided to increase the capacity of Powerpedia as a source of information, not only for our communication with new employees, but also to continue hearing from you, to establish a virtual employee suggestion box. And that will give you a chance to offer input when you don't have a chance to see us face to face. You can find more information about these initiatives, as I said, on Powerpedia. And we'll also continue to check in on implementation and hear your perspective on whether we're doing the job well at our next town hall. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here today and just leave you with one last word. Because I said our workforce is our greatest asset, I want to emphasize how important it is for everybody to go out and get a flu shot. I did do it. I don't know if you have, Mr. Secretary. Aha! We need to mobilize action. It's really important because nobody wants to be out, you feel crappy and you miss work, and that's not good for the enterprise. So please take care of yourselves, be healthy, and thank you very much for participating today.
Here.
Thank you so much, Liz. So let's open it up. There are microphones on either side here, please come up, and I will recognize you as you do. And then I'm also armed with some questions for folks at other sites. So,
Yeah,
yes,
I'm
sir.
Howard Marks with the Bioenergy Technologies Office, a contractor. My question is to the Secretary. First of all, thank you so much for your public service and what you've done to increase the stature of the department while you've been here. The issue is dealing with the price of oil today on world markets and how it reflects maybe what's happened previously. I did some research on a study that was done by a professor at New York University, Dermot Gatley, of the 1986 oil price collapse. And to make a long story short, very short, he said because of this collapse, which was $18 a barrel at that point, 1986, it said specifically, and I know you're going to visit there soon, Saudi Arabia, the Saudis did not want the long-term health of their market jeopardized by irreversible fuel switching or the development of alternative energy sources. And we know this morning that oil is now at $46 a barrel. And I know what can we in the department, or what can you do? What are the lessons learned from what happened in 1986? What can we do, no matter how limited it is, to ensure that we do remain committed to alternative fuels, to investment in those alternative fuels? You said the department is driving down the cost of clean energy. What more can we do, if anything, to make sure that we do not have a repetition of what happened in 1986? Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, well, that's a good question. Let me just start out with a few observations on the oil market itself and then turn to the question of alternatives. Of course, right now we do have a situation of a rather well-supplied oil market, to put it mildly. Private inventories are extremely high because of the imbalance, if you like, and of course a big part of that is the extra roughly 5 million barrels a day that the United States is generating. Saudi Arabia, OPEC, has chosen not to cut back on their production as they sometimes have historically. And of course there is still the overhang potentially of more production coming online in Iraq, Iran, presumably adhering to the agreement and having the opportunity to again export more oil. So it's a very well supplied market. You can talk to the EIA folks, and the general consensus is that the oil prices are probably not going to shoot up a lot in the next years. I do have a caution. You know, we're always one major geopolitical event away from a price spike, potentially a large one. And the other side of the coin, in fact, of OPEC not cutting back is that right now the world essentially has no spare production capacity. So other than petroleum reserves like our SPRO, there is no additional production response there. Now, so again, we certainly are looking at the most likely scenario of a remaining oil price not of the $100 a barrel range. And by the way, we should not forget that natural gas is at an incredibly low price. We're at $2.50 per million BTU. I mean, this is, and I remind you, a barrel of oil, not that it's the right conversion, but nevertheless, on an energy basis, a barrel of oil is roughly 6 million BTU. So natural gas in the United States remains very underpriced even now with respect to oil in terms of an energy basis. Okay, so having said all that, what do we do to keep the momentum going in terms of the alternatives? Well, for one thing, on the oil, let me say very specifically, we have not taken our eye off the ball of reducing oil dependence. I remind you, we still import 7 million barrels a day of crude oil. Okay? We are a net exporter of products now, but 7 million barrels of crude oil we still import. So we, the department, we are continuing to develop the technologies to allow vehicles to meet the CAFE standards that have been put in place, so highly efficient vehicles, lightweighting and other things of this type. Two, we are continuing our push towards the cost reduction needed for alternative liquid fuels, most especially advanced biofuels, where cellulosic biofuels remain pretty expensive compared to petroleum-based fuels, but we push there. And third, we are very committed to the technologies and to the system, the infrastructure development for electrification of vehicles. So we are pushing on all fronts in terms of reducing oil dependence, which is still quite central to what we do. But if I switch to the power sector, and the general view is that in heading to a low-carbon economy, the two kind of lead dogs in the race are efficiency and decarbonizing the power sector. That's where one has the least cost option, so that's absolutely critical. So on efficiency, we do everything from standards. So no matter what the oil price is, we continue to push on efficiency standards, although one should remember in the United States, oil effectively is the transportation sector and not the buildings or power sector. But we also continue to push on the technologies. Over the years, this is a great story. Over the years, we have, of course, invested quite a lot in advancing photovoltaic and LED technologies, and there's a lot of similarities there in terms of the technologies. A few weeks ago, our Indian colleagues were here, and quite remarkable. Minister, this is the product of a lot of innovation, partly ours, but of course partly from others in the private sector. But they just did a 200 million LED bulk purchase. A lot of LEDs. Their view was to get these out mainly in rural India, where it can be life-changing to have this kind of lighting. $1 a fixture. $1. That is a payback period of probably 2 months, 2.5 months. Think of what that, it wasn't that long ago when this was $20, $30 for a fixture. So driving this down, even if it just, you're leaving money on the table if you're not going in this direction, okay? So that's important. On the power side, of course, we continue to drive down the costs of alternative energy. Again, I'll use solar as the example. We would say that, and I don't have time, I'm going on too long, but our approach to solar in this department is, as the Deputy Secretary said earlier, across the entire innovation chain, from the basic science challenges out of the Office of Science to ARPA-E projects for technologies to EERE, looking at not only technologies but soft costs, which are now dominating the costs in many ways, to our loan program that is leading to the first large facilities out there. We're doing this across the board, and we would say that right now, in kind of an honest calculation, with no subsidy at all, we're probably in something like the 10 cent per kilowatt hour range with solar. And that's going down, and this cost reduction is key. And finally, don't forget, things like the Clean Power Plan obviously are going to require a push towards cleaner energy. So I think there's a lot going on, and I remain optimistic that despite these low prices, we will continue to push to low carbon.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you for your question.
It's a good question. I like that one.
So please line up. As you can see, you will get great value for your question.
I apologize.
Can you imagine how great it would be to be a student of his at MIT?
Liz will answer the next one. It'll be a soundbite.
One sentence.
No apology necessary. I was sincere about value. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Kern. I am a fellow in the aforementioned sleep-deprived Office of International Affairs. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Also, we appreciate the elevation of our office in your regular activities, which brings me to my question. As our commitments ever increase internationally and domestically, what is being done, what can be done, and what will be done within the DOE to find the appropriate human and capital resources to accomplish our very ambitious goals? Thank you.
I'm allowed one soundbite, get more money.
You want to elaborate?
Well, this is an ongoing struggle with our friends on the Hill to make the case for the responsibilities we have internationally. And of course, international engagement is one of the three fundamental elements of the President's Climate Action Plan. So we continue to argue that this is something essential to the mission of this department. But it's an uphill struggle, there's no question. And you and I both go to the Hill and make the case, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, there continues to be, in part of the Congress, a strong kind of resistance to the mission commitment in terms of international. But we are looking at this quite actively. We did request an increase. It did not succeed yet. But I do want to also say that, of course, while IEA is the focus for especially for our energy-related international activities, this directly impacts and draws upon other programs, EERE and EPSA, and we can go on, fossil and nuclear and electricity. And so let's just say that we, with our creative CFO, we need to think about ways of having a team approach to supporting our international efforts. Was that subtle enough, Joe?
Let me read a question from Argonne, from Nancy Sanchez, and this is a de facto follow-up to the Deputy Secretary's opening comments. Regarding the crowdsourcing campaign for the Headquarters Workplace Improvement Forum, will there be feedback on the review process and any decisions that are made to adopt or adapt according to what is important to the employees who took the time to submit ideas?
Thank you, Nancy. So I think the important point here is that we don't want this just to be a one-time effort, that we go through the initiative that we have undertaken to meet with groups and have these working groups formed and then drop it. The purpose here is to build something that is durable, that will last beyond our tenure in the department. It's why we've involved the career workforce in the initiative. And we do want there to be a feedback loop. So we're going to try using Powerpedia, because it's a way of reaching our entire workforce. And we will both post information and also seek your input, as I noted. And we'll continue to assess this and see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll have to adapt it further. But I feel confident that we're building something that will make a difference in this enterprise and that will be something that can be sustained over time.
And I would just add that, that you gave some examples of what we are doing, but also to make it clear that the process is ongoing and there are additional suggestions that are under active consideration and evaluation.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is David Rosemarkle with the Office of Human Capital. And a number of town halls back, you announced the formation of at least 3 cross-agency councils. And I was wondering if you'd care to provide an update and how you see them, if they are going to continue into the future, perhaps into the next administration.
Which 3 are you referring to? Since I think we've established more than that. Well, okay, I'll say on a few of them. For example, one that I think is having tremendous impact is the Laboratory Policy Council. This is looking at how the national laboratories work with us in a more strategic fashion than I think was occurring before, and we think that that's having great impact, including really new ways of generating ideas for research thrusts that we need to do. So that I've been very, very pleased with that one. And there's a companion laboratory operations board that I referred to earlier that's doing things on infrastructure and the like. So those are important. We established something that's critically important, referred to earlier in terms of the OPM incident, et cetera, but much broader is the Cyber Council. And I'll let Liz maybe comment on, why don't you comment on the Cyber Council,
Sure.
which plays a very central role.
The Cyber Council, with the partnership of our new CIO, Michael Johnson, has, I think, for the first time in this department's history, established an enterprise-wide approach to thinking about cyber opportunities, that is, enabling our enterprise to do its job through the information technology capabilities that are available and coming online, as well as to protect us from the many threats, the evolving and dynamic threats that we face. And it's exciting to work with this council. We've built it in a way that is inclusive, where we have participation from all of our labs and our sites and the PMAs. And it's, I think, probably a best-in-practice example in the federal workspace of how we can bring to bear the expertise we have available in this department to meet the challenges we face, and also to take advantage of the opportunities we have.
And we don't have time to go into more, but I just, we also have established at the impetus of our Secretary of Energy Advisory Board a nuclear policy council that spans nuclear issues from NNSA to nuclear energy kind of across the department. That's having impact. But we've also, of course, done things in the human capital arena, like the labor management board we referred to earlier, and said explicitly a good example was how they really helped tremendously with the survey, the federal survey. So I came in, as Liz said, committed to the idea that we needed a lot more enterprise-wide views. Actually, another one. Okay, I always go on. I'm going to stop with just one more. But this idea of enterprise-wide approach, without having cookie-cutter responses for what are different programmatic areas, I think is the revamp of the project management system, whereby, again, the philosophy was establish a few core principles that we viewed as best practices for a project management organization. Then let the three undersecretaries implement that in slightly different ways, consistent with those principles, but bring them together then for enterprise-wide activity, including a institutionalized ESAB under the able leadership of the Deputy Secretary, but very important with regular meetings, but very important as well, establishing a project management risk committee with the department's key project management types, meeting, I forget, is it every 2 weeks? Every week. Every week meeting to look at the portfolio of projects and understand the risk profile and when red lights go up or green lights go up. So anyway, so I think it's just it's a philosophy, frankly, that these enterprise-wide approaches really add value.
May I add one more, because it's of interest to the whole workforce. It's the Energy Incident Management Council.
Yeah.
So that's the place where we consider how we can be better prepared to deal with things that may happen to us in the DOE enterprise, whether it's natural disasters or man-made events, whether we have the right plans in place and response mechanisms for protecting our workforce. And there's been a huge amount of work done in the last year on that front. I think that we have made significant progress and a lot more work to be done in creating an integrated emergency operations center and a set of standard operating procedures governing how this enterprise will respond to the threats that we know are out there and presenting themselves frequently.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add, actually, that what's very important, I think, for lots and lots of these enterprise-wide approaches is that they are linked to our core capabilities going forward. So, for example, on emergency response, that's an operational activity But then I mentioned earlier the Quadrennial Energy Review, and that was a whole integrated study about the way we need to make the infrastructure more resilient so that down the road the emergency response capability will be less taxed. So I think this is a long-term view, and we hope it'll be. I think one of the questions was, will it be sustained? I've said from the beginning that the best thing we can do to institutionalize things that work is have them be really good. Mm-hmm. If they're really good, if everybody sees they have value, that's the best way to get things to stick across administration changes. So, sorry, I get too long.
If I could ask just a slightly prejudiced question, I'm involved in leadership development, and I'm wondering if you foresee the possibility of having a cross-agency effort to develop our future leaders. Right now, they're principally selected ad hoc, and the different component organizations have different strategies and different approaches to developing their leaders, and many of them do a good job, but it's still not a cross-agency approach.
Well, this is part of what we're considering when I mentioned that as we've responded to the request for more mentoring, that we're looking overall at professional development in the department where there isn't yet a system that really does invest over time in growing leaders and giving them opportunities to be exposed more broadly to what happens in this department. And so that's something that Bob has taken on, and we're working to explore what else exists in other agencies as well, some of which have done well, some of which have not, to try to learn from our peers in addition and see if we can build something in this department that will support the workforce over time.
I'll just add three maybe comments. One is, I think internally it's very important to achieve what you're talking about, to have probably more fluidity in people being able to move across the department as opportunities arise. Number two, we are looking at this is in the lab policy arena, but it's not only labs. We're trying to look at more opportunities for people from labs and sites to come here, and for our federal employees to go there to get different perspectives that can help in that in leadership development. And third, we have made, frankly, a very strong point that in our system, and now I'm talking not so much about the federal employees, but let's say labs, et cetera, that we simply have to get stronger performance on leadership diversity, and that doesn't come by just waiting around for the right candidate to show up. That comes from having an organized, systematic program. And one, at least positive sign was the lab directors, in this case, talking about labs, got the message. They self-organized a leadership diversity retreat, and 14 out of the 17 lab directors participated, I think, in a two-day event, together with some professionals. So I think it's a lot of different activities, but this is a very, very important problem, a challenge. Yeah.
We're really very close to the end of our hour. I want to squeeze in one more question from the field. This is from, and this can be for either the Secretary or the DepSec or both, from Sonia Baskerville at the Bonneville Power Administration. The power marketing administrations are different from other parts of DOE as they are operating utilities. They operate in the world that DOE provides policy and research on. How do the PMA's accomplishments reflect some of DOE's goals?
You want to start?
Sure. So I proudly get to be the person to whom the PMAs report, and know that they play an essential role in advancing our clean energy goals. First of all, they market hydropower, federal hydropower. There are 4 PMAs, in case you don't know that. They don't cover the entire territory of the United States, but big swaths of it. And they also are responsible for building transmission infrastructure and are doing a lot of investment in that kind of infrastructure recommended in the QER. So, for example, I was out in Arizona earlier this year visiting a new power substation that's moving clean energy out across Arizona to those who need it, powering 30,000 homes. And we see the PMAs as integral to our enterprise, and we include them, as we were noting, in the endeavors we've undertaken to stitch this very diverse department together and to work in a way that demonstrates that we are one. That hasn't always been the case in the approach taken by leadership here, and we're very committed to doing so going forward.
Yeah, let me just add, okay, I'll add some comments more on the kind of the technology side going forward towards a more intelligent, smart, resilient grid of the future. I'm using here grid broadly, let's say both transmission and distribution and storage. We have a lot of programs, first of all, here engaged in this. I mean, the Office of Electricity Reliability and Delivery is obvious, and they, especially with Recovery Act funds, put billions of dollars in to deploying technology, smart new technologies, phaser measurements into the high voltage grid, the benefits of which are being felt but will be felt even more as the kind of the software part catches up to the hardware. EERE has work on the grid. ARPA-E is just finishing up a very interesting grid program that was both new hardware and new software for this kind of transactional grid of the future and more reliable grid. EPSA has systems analysis going on, and in fact, a very important new activity. Actually, I should say, I mentioned the Quadrennial Energy Review earlier, and its first installment focusing on energy infrastructure writ broadly. The grid was clearly an important part of that, and if you look in our FY16 budget request, the one big ticket item out of the QER recommendations that we included in our regular appropriations request to Congress was a big grid modernization initiative. Now, that's frankly probably not going to get funded unless the sequestration caps in the budget are relieved, but it's certainly an indicator of the priority that we attach to that. Going forward, the second big installment of the QER is going to be electricity end-to-end. So all the way, so it overlaps in the infrastructure part, but goes from generation to end use and demand management. And so that's, again, a very, very big deal. One of the major areas that is not technology per se, but will be informed by technology, is as we go forward to a new kind of grid, one that has a lot of storage, one that supports distributed generation, one that supports far away renewable sources, et cetera, we need to have a fresh look at how grid services are valued, because we're still living, frankly, in the past, and in this new world, the valuations no longer apply. You're seeing that play out right now in the early stages of the skirmishes between distributed generation and utilities. It's because business models must change and valuations must change, and this is something that we're going to be working at hard this next year. Yeah. And to tie back to the question, and of course the PMAs will be, we have to walk the talk and have a reliable, transactive, modern grid for our own system.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And thank you all for taking this hour. Two quick reminders. You can see the full list of workforce improvement forum ideas that we're starting to take action on over on Powerpedia. And also a reminder that we are in the midst of the annual combined federal campaign. Please visit the CFC website for more information, or every office and program has a CFC coordinator, and I would encourage you to seek that individual out. And
may I add,
yes,
Kevin, that today at lunch, I had lunch with the 3 raffle winners for those who came to the CFC kickoff. So if you want to have lunch, go to next year's meeting for the CFC kickoff.
And I know 3 additional folks will be having lunch with the Deputy Secretary very
That's
shortly
right.
as well. Please join me in thanking the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.